Hello, Horror Fanatics. I'm Frank.
And I'm Jenn, and we welcome you to our weekly podcast.
Whoa!
The Horror!
Thank you for joining us as we dive deep into all things horror, supernatural, scary, and downright creepy.
Yeah, man, and if you like what you hear, rate, review, subscribe, follow, whatever you gotta do to add us to your regular rotation of podcasts.
You can also submit any ideas, comments, and suggestions to our email address at oth@seriouslydecent.com. And you can check us out at our website, thehorrorpodcast.com, where you can view our whole entire back catalog, connect to our social media links. Yeah. Little giggly. You'll find out pretty soon why. So to kick this off, first off and foremost, thanks to all the people that are listening to us right now.
Yeah, seriously, guys.
It's cool. It's really, really cool. We love the participation, even with the emails and just everything. It's really great. We're very blessed and fortunate to be here. Yeah, to be here and have a pretty cool ass following.
And the cults will keep coming.
Apparently, because man, those things are just getting off the press.
I guess so.
Yeah, they really. Oh, yeah. No, we've received the message. Cults ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, no, it's
So, in the spirit of Halloween, next week coming up.
Yes.
If you're in the central New York area, we always like to give our local folks props. So if you're into ghost hunting and those sorts of things, private home investigations, historic fundraiser lectures and investigations, lectures and group investigations, and they also do paranormal parties. Agent Paranormal.
There you go.
Yep, at agentparanormal.org. And you can also contact them at agentparanormalteam@gmail.com.
All right.
For those of you that are into your haunted walks, there's the Walk of the Dead. Prepare yourself for the scariest half mile of your life. Half mile.
Yep. I do more than that in the morning.
every Friday and Saturday night for the month of October. They're at the Syracuse Kickball Park, 7192 Oswego Road, Liverpool, New York.
Fair enough.
Then we got Wood Creek Hollow, 5 Years of Fears, The Haunts Return. They started back in September, and we've been intermediately going through, and they're Fridays and Saturdays till Halloween. They're in Rome, New York as well. It's 3851 Wood Creek Road, Rome, New York. And last but not least, what got us into the giggles, we going KO?
KO.
KO is how they're properly named, but I think on air I'm going to produce the suggestions. KO Warehouse of Horror, very well known here in central New York. 20 years, in fact.
Yes.
In different areas.
Yep.
You can find them at 530 Harbor Way, Rome, New York. And let's see, you're looking at the weekend of the 21st to 23rd. It'll be too late by the time this kicks off. But Halloween weekend, 6:30 till 10:30 p.m. So admission price is a 20th year special this year for $20.
Fair enough.
All tickets are sold at the attraction.
Right.
But you can check them out at koindustrial.com.
Very nice.
KO.
KO.
KO Warehouse of Horror. Yeah, that's why we had the giggles earlier. That was much more enthusiastic. Sorry, KO, but they're probably going to be like, oh, my God, I hope he never does that again.
Yeah.
And guess what?
If you guys could not...
I don't want to do that again.
We're not going to. Yeah. Ask and you shall receive. Fair enough.
Yes. So here we are.
We are.
As we always are. Episode 97.
Yes.
3 more away from the 100. It's exciting.
We're getting there.
I know. Towards the tail end of season 2.
The suspense is killing me.
I
hope it'll last.
I remember vividly starting this. Like, I look in that room, in the dining room, and our little makeshift setup.
Yep.
And we're like, well, we'll give it a try. We'll give it 3 months.
I had a composition book that I was writing my stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I remember we were like, 3 months, we'll give it a try.
Yeah.
And if we're still into it for 3 months,
then we'll do it.
We'll try it for the year.
Yeah.
That was the deal. Just the most humblest attempt. Had no idea what the hell we were doing.
Yeah, we were like, let's just see what we can see.
Yeah. And here we are in the last 28 days, 17 different countries are actively listening to us. It's exciting. It really is.
Man.
It's exciting.
It's crazy.
And then I think it's a total of 28 total we've reached in these in these 2 years.
Yeah.
And we still got a ways to go.
I know.
We got another month and a half. We've been dabbling the whole last 2 weeks of December taking off.
It would be cool if one day we got big enough to where we could do like live shows.
Yeah.
Go around to some of these countries and be like, hey guys.
Yeah.
Sorry to disappoint you that this is what we look like.
Yeah.
We had to leave the creative director at home because I'm not putting him in the cargo hold of no ship.
No. He had a plane ride to get here.
And that was enough. Yes.
I think he's just like, no, I'm indoorsy.
I'm good.
I'll do this in the car.
No, thank you.
No, thanks. You don't have enough biscuits.
Nope.
Not for that.
Nope.
He'll ride in the seat probably with us on the plane.
Yeah.
He would do that.
if they would let us buy a seat for him.
Honestly, he would be great because he would be like the perfect therapy dog there.
Oh, he would.
For someone nervous flying, and then he would just waddle up, hey, partner, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Would you like to pet my shoulders? How about some butt scratchies?
Pet me.
Yeah, just pet me. It makes its own sauce.
He's wagging his tail.
Yeah.
I stand by all of that.
I stand by all that.
I support that message.
Thump, 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 thump. Okay, episode 97, Halloween Urban Legends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been excited to do this one.
Yeah. It's a weird situation, the Halloween Urban Legends, because really there's only been like 1 or 2 stories that have really been kind of physically attached to an event.
Right.
That has created this mass.
They say that all legends or urban legends start with a kernel of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's kind of like the satanic panic. Yeah, there may have been some satanic worship in areas, but it was not as widespread as they made it out to be.
I'm going to say this for starters. The satanic panic had way more going for it than the Halloween urban legends.
Yeah.
Because, it's irresponsible to say nothing happened during satanic panic. I hear people say that. I'm like, nah, man, you just weren't around an area that had it.
Yeah.
Because if you were around an area that had it, it was real.
Yeah,
and
stuff
it was
did
scary
happen.
and it was creepy. Where this is literally, in the diving around that we've done and also heard other people, because a lot of people do different takes on.
Well, one of them is still around today.
Yeah.
And they spew it out every year.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
fine.
All right.
Whatever.
So how you want to kick this off?
Sources?
I guess. Yeah.
All right. I have readersdigest.com.au,
Yeah.
10 Halloween urban legends that refuse to die, and NewYorkDailyNews.com, Candyman kills son,
Yeah.
poisoned Halloween tree.
Nice.
Yeah, bit of a giveaway. That's by Mara Bovson, and that was from October 29th, 2016. So let's get into some of these urban legends, which, if you're of a certain age, many of these will sound familiar.
Yeah.
Because these were the things we were told as we were growing up. That be careful of the people that hand out apples on Halloween because they could have a razor blade in them.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that clearly being a trope from the 80s. And we heard it when we were kids. And if you're a parent now, you may well be giving this same warning to your own children. Be careful what you eat on Halloween because it might not be what it appears to be.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, it's very unlikely to happen. Booby trap treats are largely an urban legend. What?
Booby trap treats.
Booty trap.
That sounds like something Data from Goonies would have a field day with. The treats got booby traps.
Booty traps. Joel Best and Gerald T. Horucci assert in their scholarly paper, The Razor Blade and the Apple, the social construction of urban legends, that these treats to children and their Halloween sweets are highly overblown. In fact, most of the alleged incidents turned out to be hoaxes. There have been a few cases of sharp objects in fruit, which, yes, is frightening, but they didn't necessarily happen during Halloween. However, the majority of those where there actually were things inside of fruit or whatever, those were actually pranks. So someone specifically set out to do it. And I kind of think that some of these urban legends have kind of taken on that Tulpa effect, where, you know, you keep talking about a thing enough, you can will it into existence.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe don't. Maybe just simmer the rhetoric a little.
Well, you know, I think they're simmering the rhetoric, but also, you know, stop believing everything you fucking hear.
True.
And read.
True story.
You know, maybe just lean into it a little bit.
Yeah.
To see if
there's
it's a valid
tiny bit of truth.
Yeah. You know, it's I think that's more the larger problem.
True.
As you scale through the history books of humanity till now, it's basically a cyclical event of people just overreacting.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Over and over again.
Well, we're not done with the poor apple, because not only could it have razor blades in it, but it could also be poisoned.
Yeah.
So specifically, if you're bobbing for apples, I don't know why, you know, they would specifically only poison the bobbing apples. So bobbing for apples is an old school Halloween tradition. Check out our Halloween episode where we discuss it. Yeah. Originally, it was a kind of matchmaking game for young women. According to History.com, there were several variations of the game in which a woman would supposedly learn the fate of her love life based on which apple she picked. But much like the poison in the candy and the razor blade in the apple myths, it became laden with its own frights. If you're bobbing for apples today, you shouldn't be concerned with the poisoned apple aspect, but you might want to worry about the bacteria and germs in the water. Generally, though, it's a pretty safe activity. So this one isn't as widely spread, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember it being a huge thing, but that there's a real murderer behind the Scream face mask.
You know, I remember when that movie came out.
Yes.
Which, first off, that movie is fantastic.
It is good.
Really good. Cast was awesome. The whole story was awesome. Nice reveal in the end, which wasn't too hard to figure out, but I could see for some where it was a good reveal. But I've heard stories about that was based loosely on a actual event that took place.
Well,
but anytime you look around,
let's get into it.
Yeah.
Wes Craven's slasher movie Scream presented us with an instantly recognizable villain, Ghostface, whose mask was inspired by the figure in Edvard Munch's 1893 painting, The Scream. Understandably, Halloween became a prime time to wear not only that mask, but masks in general, and for people to worry whether a real murderer was hiding behind one of them. After all, if everyone is wearing a mask, how can you know who poses a threat to you? Which is a legit question. It turns out that there may actually be something to this myth. According to Newsweek, there were indeed a handful of murders after Scream came out that were apparently inspired by the movie, and in one, the killer wore a ghost face mask while brutally stabbing his victim with kitchen knives. The bottom line, you never know who is behind a mask, but thankfully, it's likely to just be a harmless trick-or-treater.
Yeah.
So this is the one that's the most well-known, that your candy is laced with drugs or poison or again, razor blades or sharp objects intended to hurt, maim, whatever. So chances are your neighbor or anyone in your neighborhood isn't tampering with children's sweets on Halloween. And this myth really took hold in the 80s. It did. When someone in the U.S. put cyanide in paracetamol on store shelves, remember with the tainted Tylenol? Yeah. So that helped spur, I guess, poison being put into everything. Even though it was an unrelated incident, experts theorized that this Halloween treat fear evolved as a way for parents to teach their children to be aware of stranger danger and to pay more attention to their surroundings. Vice interviewed Halloween sadism scholar Joel Best about the drugs in the candy legend and found that in the very few cases when it actually happened, and yes, it did actually happen, it wasn't a neighbor that was involved or a random home that they trick-or-treated. In one case, a child actually died of a congenital heart defect, and in another, a father poisoned his own son in order to collect on a life insurance policy.
That was the Pixie Sticks.
Correct.
1974.
Yes, I have that story coming up. Still, it's a good idea to make sure that your kids only eat treats that come in sealed, unopened wrappers. You know, the more hygienic, the better. I know that a lot of places offer to x-ray your children's candy for sharp objects, which, I mean, that's fine, but you're also exposing candy to x-rays. So, I mean...
Yeah, it's... I don't know. I'll get into that later on.
So, have you heard this one? That temporary tattoos aren't safe either?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, according to this urban legend that's been around since the 70s, drug dealers put LSD into temporary tattoos. Why? Because they're trying to get new customers by tricking unsuspecting kids into trying the drug. Mm-hmm. Another variation of the tale adds that the LSD is laced with the deadly poison strychnine. According to Snopes, there has never been a verified case of this actually happening, even though some schools occasionally send out warnings and then the rumors resurface again. So this one is actually my favorite.
So, short pause on that.
Okay.
This is why I don't understand why people are not more aggressive towards drug dealers. I know from like a younger age, like the drug dealer seems like just a person that's there and offers this service type thing. But as you get older, you realize that a drug dealer is literally just the destructor of a whole community and neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's really all they are.
Yeah.
And they don't even pay taxes.
No.
But I saw something on Facebook or Instagram or something somewhere. It was something on a social media platform. And people were talking about how you don't have to worry about gummies. Like,
yeah, you don't have to worry about the stoners handing
out gummies because they're
edibles.
so expensive in the edibles.
Yeah.
Because they're so... And I'm like, no, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
It's what you just rattled off on there. A drug dealer will do that because now here's the construct we have with legal weed. And I don't care what your stance is on legal weed.
Right, yes.
You can have it.
But there are issues.
But there are risks and issues.
Yes.
So you have a drug dealer that says, okay, have these gummies that look like something a kid would eat.
Yeah.
Which I have a problem with that.
Yeah. Why are you as an adult getting gummy bears?
Yeah. For weed. I mean, it's just I don't understand it. You know, have a Jolly Rancher, like the Jolly Ranchers and stuff like that, that I get. But the colorful, sugary covered like stuff, that's right in line with kids.
Yeah.
So if you have a drug dealer that pumps that out on Halloween, and I'm not saying it's going to be everywhere, but you can't say no one will do this. And that's what the whole meme was saying.
Right, yes.
No one would do this. And the fact is someone would do that because in order to buy weed in a legal area, you have to be a certain age. And if you're younger, who are you going to get your weed from? Are you going to get, maybe the lucky uncle that'll go to a dispensary and buy this stuff for you?
Yeah.
Or are you going to go to the dude down the street on the corner that just sells it to you?
Well, and
try before you buy.
The number of times that children have ingested the edibles
over nothing.
They've gotten them from their parents.
Yeah.
Like taken them out of their mother's purse, or taken them out of the drawer and then taken them to school.
I used to take fireworks
Yeah.
from my dad in
Yeah.
his closet, and I was dumb enough to just only take a couple at a time. I'm like, only just a couple, but then I'm addicted to setting M80s off. So now like half the box is gone. My dad's just like, yeah, I don't get why half my box just mysteriously disappeared to M80s. It's like, yeah, you know, you're just a dumb kid doing dumb shit.
Exactly.
And
well, and they see candy. That's what they see.
Exactly.
Do you blame them?
You know,
Maybe if you're an adult, maybe don't get candy.
do adult things.
Yeah. You know, smoke that shit or whatever.
No, just, yeah, I don't.
You know, or here's a thought. Maybe be as diligent about that as you want people to be about guns. Why are these edibles readily available to these children?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you should lock that up too.
It's, yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, don't even get me started on that concept, because I had that out with a person publicly.
Yeah.
With someone saying that about guns, and I knew they were into edibles and things like that. And, you know, and again, that's your life. Do what you want to do.
Fine.
But stop telling me what to do
Exactly.
with my shit.
Yeah.
And I'll stop, and I won't tell you what to do with your shit. But the moment you start that conversation,
I'm going to get into your shit too.
I yield the right to get into your shit. It's that simple. And if you don't like the criticism, you know, figure it out. You know, yeah, it's
just saying.
no, it's an interesting time. So,
Is it really though?
no, it is an interesting time, and I wish best of luck to many of you.
So, the next one, this one is my favorite, and it's the one that's been around the longest. Summoning Bloody Mary by saying her name 3 times.
Yeah.
Who hasn't done this? I know I did. Did you?
So, we're at a friend's house.
Okay, lay it on me.
And, like, this is when I realized...
Was this before or after you guys were playing with the Ouija board?
Now, here's the thing. I never played with a Ouija board.
I know.
That's the one stat I have.
I was just breaking your balls.
No, that was the stat I have. And it was stuff like that even back at a younger age, I just looked at, why would you even want to do this? Like, it's just such
Why
a playing
even do
with
it in the
fire
first place?
attitude, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a good story about it. I've heard nothing great happen. But it's that whole thing of like, you know, don't touch this rock.
Yeah. Well,
You
if
know,
you say don't touch this rock,
You're gonna touch the
the
fucking
rock.
rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Don't
how.
put your lips on it. Guess what? You're gonna put your lips on it.
Yeah, yeah. And so then that's what makes these things terrible, is because somebody will say, oh, if you say Bloody Mary in a mirror 3 times, you know, something bad's going to happen that night.
Yeah.
And it's like, then you look at it from that perspective, and it's like, something bad happens just about every night. I mean, you know, to a certain degree, but yeah, with kids with this, like, it creates this this mystique thing. And I say kids, like high school and down.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, you just haven't lived long enough to know that bad shit happens. The chance of bad shit happening every night is...
I remember it, not that bad shit would happen, but just that she would appear in the mirror, and then it later evolved to not only would she appear, but then she would start wrecking shit up.
Yeah.
To the point where, you know, will you die? Won't you die? So, legend has it, you say her name 3 times as you gaze directly into the mirror, and she'll appear. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Yeah.
You may have tried this once in your childhood. Fun fact, I did.
Yeah.
Either on Halloween or another random night. For me, it was a random night. When you were having a sleepover. Nope, just me. You waited for the ghoulish figure to show up to scare you or even to hurt you. Nothing. But of course, she never did.
So nothing happened with you.
We probably don't need to spell this out, but there is no ghostly Bloody Mary. Yeah, no, I did it. I tried it with the lights off. I tried it with the lights on. I tried it at different times. Nothing. But for those of you who are Supernatural fans, if you say Bloody Mary 3 times, Bobby Singer will appear in your mirror and slap you and call you an idiot for messing with spirits.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't want to incur the wrath of Bobby. Doesn't go well. And according to Snopes, kids between the ages of 9 and 12 are particularly fascinated by legends such as Bloody Mary. And it's a safe way to get a vicarious thrill, also release some anxiety, or create it. There was actually a real and terrifying Bloody Mary, but she's not at the root of this urban legend. The real Bloody Mary belongs to Queen Mary I of England, who burned hundreds of Protestants at the stake. Completely different Bloody Mary, but I mean, she legit earned that. So, shall we talk about killer clowns?
Why not? We were almost going to have a whole entire episode for that, but we didn't know if we could find enough killer clown stuff.
Turns out we did the episode on killer clowns, because pretty much the only killer clown is Gacy. That's all I could find.
Well, you know where I think a story like this comes from is you got people that are dressed in clowns. Now, you had that band, what was it, the Insane Clown Posse?
Yes.
And they were a bunch of derelicts that were running around in clown costumes or whatever.
Yes.
And I think, I'm not saying the Insane Clown Posse did this or whatever.
But members
I think you've got
their...
Well, no, you just got people that are dressed up as clowns.
Yeah.
And then, for whatever reason, they might beat up somebody or just,
Yeah, I will
do something
say
like that. And that's how
some of
shit
their
like this,
fans did do some pretty shitty stuff.
Oh, no.
But it wasn't the ICP themselves. It was fans.
Oh, they're ICP?
Yeah.
It sounds so exclusive, babe.
Are you down with ICP?
You got an ICP patch or something like that? Something I don't know about? I mean, it'd be cool as fuck. But
sadly, I don't.
Yeah, but I think that's something that would leave, that just leaves more of an impression. Yeah. If you had just a group of people going around beating people up, kind of like you do now, but people don't look at it as much. But if you had 4 of those, just 3 of those people be a clown or some sort of costume that's alike, all of a sudden it's memorable. It's a big thing to talk about. Because it's 3 people. Oh, I guess clowns are just fucking beating up people now. And again, that's where people just run with very limited information and take off and create these alternate realities and theories.
That the fans of the ICP are juggalos?
I never got the whole juggalo thing. I never got that whole thing. I'm going to be honest. And that was right in the wheelhouse of my existence and everything.
Yeah.
I didn't really know many people around me that were into it.
No.
But I remember, that's right. They were the juggalos and oh man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good times.
It was a good time.
All right. So let's get into this whole killer clowns thing. Clowns have always been both a source of amusement and fear. Fear of clowns, or coulrophobia, is actually a common phobia among adults. U.S. serial killer John Wayne Gacy, dubbed the Killer Clown, was dubbed so because he did sometimes dress as a clown during town events for the JCs or for the...
do parties.
Yeah.
But he never did it while he was killing people.
Correct.
It's a misnomer.
Correct. And it's one reason that the people may find clowns disturbing and threatening. Also, Stephen King's novel It certainly didn't help.
I know
with the
It did
clown
it for me.
Image.
And there's just something weird about it. I'm going to say it for what it is.
So what did it for me? It wasn't It.
Mm-hmm.
It was the clown from Poltergeist. The clown toy.
That messed a lot of people up.
Fun fact. I listened to a comedian, Dan Cummings, and he goes, did you know that wasn't just like a movie prop? Like that was a legit clown.
An actual clown
from
toy.
A store. And he goes, I had the same clown.
Nope.
And he said he never thought one way or another about it, and then he saw Poltergeist, so the next day he took his clown and beat the shit out of it because he was sure it was gonna come after him. And then he was like, holy shit, I just beat the shit out of this clown. Now it's definitely gonna come after me. So he threw it out. His mother saw the clown in the garbage, pulled it out of the garbage, and put it back in his room.
Oh my God.
Guess who's scared of clowns?
What a sequence of events.
She had no idea that he had spent like an afternoon beating the shit out of the doll and then throwing it away because he didn't want to incur any wrath or repercussions associated with it. And then she just put it back in his room.
What a terrible series of events. Oh my God.
It's 100% something I would have done.
That would sound like something that you would have done and your mom would have done in that whole place there.
But also something I would have done to my kid. Would have been like, oh, Bobby threw away his favorite clown toy.
You would never buy a clown for your kid.
I would not. I would like to think I was better than that.
You would never do that. No way. I remember there was things I wasn't comfortable around with as a kid. Clowns were one of them, and Santa Clauses. Like Santa, the idea Santa, I loved. Mm-hmm. But the actual like mall Santa, and things that I didn't, because I just saw right through it.
Yeah,
this is a mangy person. That's not Santa.
It's like the carny of Santas.
I don't even think Santa knows that guy is working for him. You know, I mean, just this guy. This is a sham. This is a grifting.
He's not in the union of Santas.
This is a grifting. Yeah, he doesn't have a union card. No. He's not a member.
No.
He doesn't.
It's not magical.
Yeah.
There's nothing magical or mystical.
Do you have an employee ID of some kind? You know.
Yeah.
No, are you certified? No, and clowns were the same thing. Like, it was always just this alcoholic. I mean, because think about it. Yeah. I get it. There are people that do the clown thing and, like, they're natural at it. And those are the ones in hospitals. And, like, they just they're really good at what they do. But the problem is like, that's only 10 to 20% of the working clowns. The other 80% is the scariest part of the population doing something like that. And I remember just looking at that as a kid, and I just never got into it. And then I think what happened for me is Poltergeist, all that stuff proved my point.
Yeah. See?
Yeah, it's like, no, and I didn't make like a grand gesture about it, but I just remember in my mind, like, yeah, you know what? I don't need to do anything with clowns anymore.
I had the opposite.
Yeah.
Until Poltergeist, I dug clowns, but not like Ronald McDonald Bozo.
Yeah.
Like the hobo.
The
hobo clowns, because they used to have those figurines.
Yeah.
And I was on the path to where I was going to start collecting them. Like, I was going to use my birthday money and whatnot.
Such an odd kid.
Yeah. I was going to collect the hobos.
Because the hobo clown is the one that's going to put you in the van. That's the one. That's the one that's going to put you in the van.
Oh, Frank. He's misunderstood.
He's
just
misunderstood.
Sad.
He's just sad.
He's just sad.
And
he's just really, really sad.
He just needs the joy of children.
He just needs a good story.
He
needs a feel-good story, and that everything will be fine. It'll turn his life around.
He just needs the joy of children to save his soul. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right.
So...
I think we could have done Killer Clowns as an episode. Not anymore. It's done.
That ship has sailed.
No.
So experts believe the fear of clowns may be due to the uncanny valley effect, in which people find things that look human but aren't quite human. Extremely unsettling.
Okay.
Like, you're like, yeah, but just off.
Mm-hmm. I find, too, what's weird is what was acceptable at one point and isn't now. Mm-hmm. Example, the creepy picture that I saw recently of our costumes as kids when we were in like elementary school.
Yes.
With the plastic faces with the cheap rubber band that always fucking broke.
Yeah.
Around
with the
it.
Cutout
and like
eye
just
holes.
cut out eye holes.
And the cutout nose holes that you couldn't breathe through.
And the plastic that would give you cancer.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then there'd be like this trash bag like outfit that you'd put on top.
That would have the ties on it, and they would, if you were lucky, you would make it through the parade at school without any of them breaking.
If you made it out the door.
Yep.
I mean, it was just cheap shit.
Yep.
And that's when everybody was like, plastics is going to change the world, you know.
It sure did, just not in the way they expected.
But I remember like walking into those classrooms as a kid and everyone dressed up and I was like, oh my God,
that's so cool.
And so and that's so cool and it's so awesome. And now I look and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like,
what sweet hell is that?
And I mean, black and white doesn't help. You know, like those pictures are in black and white. But color doesn't make it. It's not like color.
It doesn't make it any better.
No, it's not like.
It's all a bunch of those dead faces looking back at you.
It's not like color revived
Except
it.
in this case, the eyes really do move.
Yeah. No, but it's not like.
They are real.
It's not like color cured it or revived it, you know. But yeah, I just remember being a kid and looking and being like, yeah, that was Halloween. Teacher was going to give us candy. And like, it was awesome. And we get to see the different costumes everyone's got. And then,
and then you'd look at the pictures and you're like, oh yeah, that's great. Look at how cool I look.
Yeah.
And you're looking at them now as an adult and you're like, what sweet hell is
Those
this?
were creepy as fuck. Yeah. Super creepy.
Yeah, they were.
And it's just amazing what you see through the eyes of a kid that you think is interesting or clear.
Or
you know.
what you will accept as a child and what you won't as an adult. Like, as a child, you kind of take a lot of things at face value or as fact, and you're like, sure, okay, yeah. Look at how cool my Wonder Woman costume is.
Yeah.
And then you look at it as an adult, and you're like, should my parents have been turned into CPS? Is that like child abuse?
No,
could it be classified as abuse?
But I get it. Like, that's all there was. You know, like there wasn't.
And that's all we wanted.
Yeah, and that's all we wanted too.
I mean,
but again,
it didn't help that was all we had, unless you had a parent that could make your costumes. And we only had like a handful of people that pulled that off.
Yeah, that's.
And we know my mom. Yeah. She wasn't making shit. So whatever comes in a box and has all of the pieces need to be in said box.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's it. That's all you got.
Yeah, I don't. It was a weird situation, but there's a lot of things I look back at as a kid that I found acceptable and cool and awesome. Mm-hmm. And then as I grew up, I look back and I was like, there was nothing cool about that. There was nothing awesome about that.
Yeah.
I hate when people look back and say, oh, well, that's so damaging. And like, I don't think so. I think I'm one of those ones that like, I really think you got to get your knees scraped up. You got to get your hands dirty. You need to have some fear.
You gotta fall the fuck down. Like you need to take a digger. You need to take a bad digger at least once. For some of you, multiple diggers until the point gets driven home that, you know, maybe some changes should be made.
I remember as a little kid, I was riding my bike in the trails all by myself, and we had like these series of trails that we kind of have as tracks, and I'd always like try to race around and do like my best time because that's when I was in BMX racing and stuff like that.
So Frank, was it I did this all by myself, or was it all by myself?
This was a time, I remember this vividly, like it was a transition. Like I look at it in my life where there was like a transition in how I looked at everything. I wrecked, and I wrecked bad.
Okay.
I mean, like I was bleeding and I was far away from home. I would say probably like on a bike, going as fast as I could, easily like 30 minutes
Oh, you
from
were
home.
out.
Yeah, I was out. I was at least like a mile. I wouldn't say 30 minutes, but probably probably 20, 30 minutes, a good bike ride.
Takes me 25 minutes to walk a little over a mile in the morning.
No, and that's what I'm getting at. And I remember there was no one around because it was getting close to dinner time.
Oh.
And I was going to be late.
Gotta get home for dinner.
I was going to be late, but that I didn't even care about. I went over to my bike, and my bike was all messed up. I couldn't ride it.
Yep.
So I actually, first I sat, and I was in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And, no one was around. So, of course, it was the long crying for a while, and I got it out of my system. I'm like, you know what? There's no one out here. Yeah. I have to go home. I remember picking myself up, and I remember looking at my bike, and I'm like, I can't even push this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I went to carry it a little bit, and I was like, there's no way I'm carrying it this far. But I didn't want to lose it. Yep. So I carried it over 20, 30 yards off the trail.
Yep.
Laid it down, covered it up with some stuff, some branches and things like that. And then I marked the trail with a stick, and I walked home and walked all the way home. And I was an hour late for dinner. It was 6 o'clock. Dinner was usually at 5 or something like that. I remember I was all busted up and just once I got home, I was just I got to get my bike because my bike was everything.
Yeah.
My dad's like, well, what'd you do with it? And I was just well, I told him everything he did. He's like, it'll be there tomorrow. He's like, don't worry about it, And I'm sitting there and I knew I could believe that because my dad would never let me leave something somewhere.
Of value.
Value. That wasn't even a freaking option, Yeah. And
Do you think secretly your dad was super proud that you had the foresight to
hide it?
Yeah.
I don't know. And
not only hide
Here's
it, but
the thing.
mark it.
Even if I talk to him, I don't know if he'd remember something like this.
It's true.
But the impact it had on me, that, I remember there was my life before that event, and there was my
life
after that event.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments where I looked and it was you know what? I can take care of this. I can do this. I can, and I'm sorry, there's no better way to do that than when you're assed out on the frickin' ground with no one around.
Yep.
And you really got to depend and pull yourself together to do it. I remember that. Yeah, man. One Frankie went into the woods, a different Frankie came out. But I've seen my life as a series of moments like that where I just had these really, really testing things. But as a kid, that was I know for a fact that was my first one. That was my first one where I was just yeah, all right, I can handle more
than I think
than I give myself credit for. And I didn't articulate it like that in my mind. I was just, but I knew it. I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know, but I knew I changed after that. And that's where I look at things now, these crazy costumes and stuff like that. It's you have this naiveness to you where everything's cool.
Yeah.
Everything's neat.
Yeah.
Then you get older and you look and you're like, dude, that wasn't neat at all.
Yeah.
That wasn't cool.
Yeah.
That was fucking terrible.
Yep.
You almost died there. You didn't even know it. And I think, this kind of ties in with urban legends with Halloween. There's these things, these stories that you hear. And there's this, I think what's cool to me, at least, about Halloween urban legends is how far you can dance in the trust of people and out.
Yeah.
And I mean, you think about it, all these cases that, come up and some of them that we've been talking about, the real ones, the scary part, I hate to say it, it's the family. It's not the kids, or it's not a stranger, is what I'm getting at. And the
danger is more often than not inside the house.
Yeah, the pixie stick one.
Yeah, well, I'm going to get there.
Okay.
So let's finish up our clowns. Remember in 2016, not too very long ago, where we had the strange outbreak of menacing clown sightings? It wasn't just in the U.S., it spread to Australia and no doubt other places in the world. And some incidents were just plain creepy and others were actually full-fledged attacks. And that's what I was trying to find. I was trying to find the full-fledged attacks. And that's what our Killer Clowns episode was going to be on, but couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that we were told as kids was that kidnappers were out in full force on Halloween. The truth, kids aren't at a greater risk of being kidnapped on Halloween than they are on any other day of the year, but it has happened, and those cases tend to get a lot of media attention. And the fear of kidnappers on Halloween night has become so strong that in North America, it inspired a new tradition, trunk or treat. Huffington Post Canada reports that church groups were the first to start the trunk or treat activity, which limits trick-or-treating to a closed environment and subsequently makes the tradition safer for kids. And of course, parents can also trick-or-treat with their children to make sure they stay safe. My mother always said we didn't have to worry about poison candy and we didn't have to worry about that other stuff because we were trick-or-treating to people that we knew. We were only going to the people that we knew.
Yeah, no, and you were a really, really small town.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. We were out there.
You get in a bigger place like a village and stuff like that where there's a lot of kids. I get where parents are guarded about that.
Yeah.
But
coy dogs were a bigger threat. Actually, they were full-fledged coyotes at that point.
Yeah.
So the last of the 10 is that the Halloween decoration of the dead body is actually a real dead body. And this urban legend persists not just because people are splurging on expensive decorations, but because it has some real-life backup. The website Thought Catalog details a number of stories in which people thought they were looking at a fake body, but instead were looking at an actual victim of murder, suicide, or accidental death. As awful and tragic as these stories are, they are rare. The overwhelming majority of the time, those lifelike decorations are thankfully just decorations. I follow a ton of Halloween groups, and the number of dudes who see it as a badge of honor to have the cops called on their decorations.
Yeah.
Like they could not be more proud.
Yeah.
So let's get to the real story that inspired the poison candy.
Yeah.
So this guy was dubbed the Candyman. And this is an article from New York Daily Post. Candyman killer dad serves his own son a poison treat on Halloween in 1974. In 1974, the real monster that walked among all of us was a dad. Ronald Clark O'Brien is today remembered as the man who killed Halloween. He earned the nickname, as well as another, the Candyman, by murdering his own son, Timothy, 8, with a cyanide-laced treat. Although the holiday stretches back to antiquity, children in costume going door to door asking for sweets is relatively recent, only about a century old. Tradition was firmly established in the 1950s. Along with trick-or-treating rose another phenomena, panic about people slipping poison, razor blades, pins, and other instruments of destruction into goodies. Most of these horror stories have been relegated to urban myth. O'Brien is the one documented case that is cited when talk turns to killer Halloween candy. O'Brien, then 30, his wife Deneen, and 2 children, Timothy and Elizabeth, 5, started Halloween evening with a meal at the home of another family, Jim Bates and his wife and children, in Pasadena, Texas. After dinner, the 2 dads left the house, escorting 3 children, Bates's son and O'Brien's son and daughter, out into a drizzly night for the annual candy hunt. One house along the route was dark, but the children still rang the doorbell. There was no answer, so they moved on. O'Brien lagged behind and then, moments later, came running to catch up. He was waving 5 giant pixie sticks, 22-inch straws filled with flavored sugar. He told the kids it was their lucky day because, quote, rich neighbors were distributing, quote, expensive treats. Each of the 3 children on the walk got 1 pixie stick. Later, O'Brien gave the 4th to Bates's other child, a 5-year-old daughter. The final pixie sticks went to a trick-or-treat visitor who rang the doorbell at the Bates' house. Back in their home in Deer Park, Texas, O'Brien told his children they could each have a treat before bedtime. Timothy chose the pixie sticks, but he stopped after the first taste, saying it was bitter. Timothy's dad offered him Kool-Aid to wash it down. Moments later, O'Brien heard the boy crying, "Daddy, Daddy." Quote, "It seems like it wasn't long before he was up and complaining his stomach hurt and he didn't feel good. He was bent over vomiting and I was holding him when he just went limp," end quote. O'Brien told the Associated Press. Quote, "We thought we were so careful. We had even wondered if we should go out trick-or-treating this year. There isn't going to be any more trick-or-treating for us," end quote. An autopsy found enough cyanide in the boy's body to kill 3 grown men. Examination of the pixie sticks showed that someone had opened the tube and replaced some of the candy with poison. Then the tube had been stapled shut. One of the children who had gotten a tainted pixie stick had been tempted but fell asleep before he managed to pull out the staple. The other tubes were recovered before any child tried to eat the contents. Police became suspicious of O'Brien's story, especially after he offered his version of how he came into possession of the deadly treats. He said that he rang the doorbell at the dark house and a man thrust the 5 pixie sticks at him. He said he saw nothing but, quote, "a hairy arm." It turned out that the man who lived there was an air traffic controller, and he had 200 people vouch for the fact that he was at work at the time this was supposed to have happened. Then, detectives delving into O'Brien's background came up with some startling facts. O'Brien, an optician who worked for Texas State Optical, was about $100,000 in debt. He had lost his house and was on the verge of losing his car. He was also about to lose his job because his bosses had discovered that he was stealing. In the decade before the crime, he had been booted from 21 other positions. To top it all off, investigators learned that he had taken out $60,000 in life insurance on his children. Police speculated that O'Brien had planned to kill his kids for the insurance money. Within days, O'Brien was under arrest for the murder of his son. Detectives were never able to pin down the source of the cyanide, but several witnesses at O'Brien's trial, which started in May 1975, told of his interest in obtaining the poison and how much it would take to actually kill someone. His sister-in-law also said that at the boy's funeral, the grieving dad mused about using the insurance money to take a long vacation. Quote, "The only inescapable conclusion is that this man killed his own flesh and blood for money," end quote. Prosecutor Mike Hinton told the court, quote, "Think how easy it would be for him to kill a stranger for money," end quote. The jury took 46 minutes to find O'Brien guilty and worthy of the death penalty. Appeals dragged on for nearly 10 years, and O'Brien maintained he was innocent to the end. On March 31st, 1984, the Candyman had a last supper of steak, French fries, peas, and Boston cream pie before his execution by lethal injection.
They should have gave him pixie stick with cyanide
exactly.
in it and killed 2 birds with 1 stone.
So as the sentence was carried out, demonstrators in Halloween masks stood outside the prison yelling, "Trick or treat!"
That's what I would have gave him for a last meal.
Fucking dick. He took out half the sugar and replaced it with cyanide.
Yeah.
And he gave it to not only his kid, he handed out 5 of those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why that was so huge on that end, is he killed his own son.
Yeah.
So people are going to make the leap. You know, this is where, again, people make leaps for crazy reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, this doesn't sound so crazy when you hear it, but it's the fact that, yeah, so this guy killed his own flesh and blood. But the fact of the matter is like, there's not strangers. Like the element of trust in Halloween is amazing to me. It's the one time where people are very trustworthy. Mm-hmm. And the thing is 99% of the time it yields out great.
Right.
So it's like you had this great evidence of, I mean, you think about it. Everybody's dressed in a costume. Mm-hmm. If somebody were to do something crazy, you'd be just like, well, Freddy Krueger did it. I don't know who did it.
Yeah, right.
Who was dressed as Freddy Krueger?
It was Michael Myers.
I didn't know any Freddy Kruegers. You know, I mean, it could be very mysterious like that. And hard to find any kind of evidence to, you know, that would be like the night to do it. And it never happens because there's this trustingness. And I think it gives you the ability to trust people more than you think. Mm-hmm. You can trust people.
Yeah.
The problem is one thing happens and everybody's like, See? Told ya! You know, and there you have it. And it just becomes this ping pong ball match.
Ping pong, ping pong.
Yeah, no, and after a while, I mean, you know, probably in the next 5 years, one other thing's going to happen, and it's just going to, trust is going to go down again. You know, it was a cool thing I learned on this that had nothing to do with urban legends or anything like that. How Reese's peanut butter cups came to be. You ever hear that story?
You got chocolate in my peanut butter. You got peanut butter in my chocolate.
1917, Harry Burnett Reese moved to Hershey, where he was employed as a dairyman for the chocolate company and later worked at its factory. And then, inspired by Hershey's success, Reese had 16 children.
Oh,
16.
Dude, get off her.
Began making candies in his basement. And in the mid-1920s, he built a factory of his own and produced an assortment of candies, including peanut butter cups, which he invented in 1928 and made with Hershey's chocolate. Then World War II happens, and there's a shortage of ingredients, and this led Reese to pull the plug on all the other candies he was making, and he put his focus on just the popular product, peanut butter cups. And in 1963, Hershey acquired the H.B. Reese Candy Company. So my question is, what were those other candies he was working on?
Yeah.
His peanut butter cups are pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
I mean, did he just blow his wad on peanut butter cups? Or, I mean, well, obviously he did, but I mean, it was limited ingredients.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know, did he have a everlasting gobstopper he was working on, or a
Scrumdiddlyumptious bar?
Yeah.
I don't know. Did the snozberries taste like snozberries?
I don't know.
Was he Wonka?
It's amazing. Yeah. So yeah, that's like World War II pretty much honed him right into making peanut butter cups.
I mean, it makes sense. You're gonna put your money and your power behind.
Well, and you think about it, they probably
big seller.
had an abundance of chocolate and peanut butter. Everything else wasn't.
Well,
around.
yeah, you know, sugar would have been rationed, and if I remember correctly, he just melted down the Hershey bar. And then he warmed up the peanut butter and poured the peanut butter into the chocolate shell, and then covered the top with more melted chocolate, and then just let them set.
Bob's your uncle.
Biggity bam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing I have to add before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Candyman.
Yes.
And man, that's my favorite horror movie is the Candyman.
The original.
That one.
Candyman.
I watched that, and yeah, you're talking the one that was in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember.
They redid it.
I don't pay attention to that.
I know.
That one, I remember watching that, and that was creepy and scary as all hell.
Wasn't Virginia Madsen in that?
Yeah.
It
was.
It was good. I remember watching it the first time. And for me, it was less horror and more like a...
Well, it's like a slasher film by nature.
For me, it was more like a murder mystery. Who done it?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of had that mix of everything. And I mean, Tony Dodd as the Candyman.
He was amazing.
Was ridiculously amazing.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Guys, if you haven't watched Candyman, you've been sleeping on a good movie.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. That is one of my favorites.
Yeah, and that was the one, you know, you'd said Candyman in front of the mirror 3 times.
I did that too.
You know,
the Candyman didn't appear though.
Yeah.
Neither did.
Maybe
he and Bloody Mary were like, hey.
But it was a cool story. It had a really good storyline.
Yes.
And the whole like horror of it, like to me, that was like one of the like best for me.
I think that was based on a true story.
No, I think more probably like an urban legend.
Okay.
It's I don't know. I didn't get that far into it. But one thing that I do have to drop, you good on all this here?
That's all I got.
That's all you got?
Mm-hmm.
So someone who listens to the podcast gave me a link to a YouTube video.
Yes.
And it's this Jerry Marzinski.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have to share it on the thread. It's like 2 hours. It's long, and I was watching it in like 15-minute chunks,
right?
Like here and there, just listening. It's basically just him talking. The host didn't say much because honestly, she didn't have to.
Right.
This guy was like silly and arresting, and he basically worked in it was 35 years of a mental therapist, mental health therapist position, 35 years in the state institution level and in prisons,
right?
In Arizona and Georgia, and he goes on about schizophrenics, and he basically leads to say and makes this very, very strong case that the voices that schizophrenics hear in their head are the voices of spirits and demons.
Yes. And
phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Jerry Marzinski, it's M as in Mary, Arzinski. And he has a variety of different videos, or, like YouTube.
Right.
But there's a show he does, or he hops on a show, and I'm looking quick. It's Night Flight is the YouTube channel. Okay. And he's under that. And it's absolutely unbelievable, the stuff that he talks about. I'm debating on actually making it
I think
like
it would be
full
I
episode.
think it would be a great topic for an episode.
Yeah, because it really, really opens your eyes on that topic and where things go.
I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've said it a million times, that just because you haven't seen it, or just because you don't believe in the devil, or you don't believe in demons, does not mean they do not believe in you.
Yeah.
And it's literally all around you. And once you actually open your eyes to it, you see it everywhere.
Yeah, but not just everywhere you see that, but you also see that the light itself has a lot more power than you give it credit.
Yes.
And it's true. You shine a light on something that's in darkness, and the darkness disappears.
Right.
And for those that believe that and understand it and have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. For those that haven't, I think it's stuff like this that you might want to listen to just show an alternate
point of
theory
view,
or alternate point of view or perspective that would open the gates to that type of idea. If not, it's just incredibly entertaining. Because, like I said, he's 35 years doing this, and his premise basically is that schizophrenia is a thought disorder.
Yes.
And the problem is with psychiatry for the last 35 years, 40 years, is that they haven't tried to figure out where these thoughts are coming from.
Right.
They're just treating the thoughts.
They just treat it, yes.
And that's basically diving into the whole synopsis, or the whole idea of that's what psychiatry does. It's just treat
They're treating the symptoms, yes.
But they're not trying to figure out
the root cause,
where it all comes from. And he gets into that a lot deeper and further, and that's where I say it'll probably end up being another episode sometime next year. But yeah, if you're into that type of stuff, really good, really heavy. It's 2 hours long, the certain one. I'll put the link in the show notes and Facebook group probably. But the second hour goes by super fast.
You were super.
Oh, I walked through the door. I couldn't get out of my.
No,
I couldn't get it out of my mouth fast enough.
Tell me about it fast enough.
Oh yeah, no, it's absolutely just mind blowing.
Yeah,
and the reason he, and he also states why you don't hear more about this is because he said if I were to do this while I was working, they would have locked me up.
Yes.
He goes, and not just fire me, they would have locked me up in the ward.
Yep.
For thinking like that. And it's great to listen to because it also shows the hold that universities have on kids and students. I'm not even going to say kids, students.
Yes.
And to lightly go over that because I think it's necessary to talk about. It's
indoctrination.
Well, no, it's ego at its best.
Yeah.
So what you have is these universities, and they have these psychiatrists and psychotherapists and, this science, so to speak, and the so-called leaders of the science, who, it's funny, appear to be all academics. There's no one who naturally knows all about this. They have to go through the academic field to be an expert of this. And basically what he was stating is when you're going to school, and for those of you that are psych majors and things like that, think about it. You're going into school, you got to trust everything in the book.
Yeah.
You're not doing any field experience. You're not doing anything. You've got to go through all of that, the book experience, and just putting blind faith in the professors that wrote the book and the professors that are teaching you the material. And then you get in.
Yeah.
And to get into a ward, a health ward or something like that, you have to be someone who's gone through all this indoctrination, so to speak. So now that you're in there and you see this relationship with the drug companies, the medical industry, and all this stuff, it starts becoming questionable. You see it blatantly that they're just treating the symptoms.
Yep.
They're not treating where it comes from. He said, think about it. 35 years he was in there, and they made no progress on schizophrenia whatsoever, other than to drug them.
Yeah.
They have no idea where the thoughts come from. Yeah. They have no idea what any of this is.
That's all they've ever done.
Yeah. Then you start listening to his point of view, and things start making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And again, even talking about it this much, like, it's easily another episode.
Yeah.
So definitely, like I said, if you're into that, I'll point links to it. But definitely an amazing topic, and it's Jerry Marzinsky, Marzinsky. He also has a website with his name.com.
Okay.
Definitely check it out, and you can connect to everything through there. So what do we got next week?
We have a BOGO episode.
We do.
You're a wizard, Frankie.
Yeah.
And witches.
I'm doing wizards. You're doing witches.
I know, weird, right?
So what a great Halloween episode to
I
do.
think so.
Yeah. So very, very much looking forward to that. And I'd like to thank again everyone that's listening through us through the Halloween season. And we would love if you could just send a word to a friend or 5 or 10 close people, or just
anyone
put it,
you think would be interested,
or just put it on your social media feed. Just put the link to the website, and if you're happy with us, and just say, hey, here's a cool podcast I've been listening to. We'd really appreciate it, because that's how we get around.
Yep.
Rule number 1.
No Ouija boards.
Number 2.
No dolls.
3.
No capes.
4.
No blood rituals.
Number 5.
No cults, satanic or otherwise.
And 6.
No apathy. You need to act to help enact a positive change in this world.
And 7.
Don't let the black-eyed children in. Don't look at them. Don't engage. Don't give them what they want.
Don't do it.
They're dead to you.
Yeah. And last but not least.
Just listen.
Thanks for listening to us, folks.
Yes.
And you have a lovely day, a wonderful week.
And make good choices.
Take care.